Hello guys and welcome back to the MS Excel course here at Learn.io. Today we're going to be talking about making our own formulas, making our own equations in Excel. So the past couple of lessons have been relatively simple. They cover topics that you could probably figure out to some extent just by messing around on Excel. Today we're going to talk about something that's just a little bit more complicated. Um, and so if you'll remember on the first video that we did on Microsoft Excel, I mentioned that if you type in 1 plus 1, it'll just show 1 plus 1 and it won't actually calculate it out to 2. There's a special way to make it calculate 1 plus 1. If you put in, so if you, whenever you're typing in a cell, put an equal sign at the beginning of whatever you're typing, then it'll basically assume that the rest of the information you're putting in is a formula. And a formula basically means that it's some sort of an equation or some sort of operation that you're trying to do with the information rather than just have the information show. So for example, now if I type in 1 plus 1, it'll actually do the math to equal 2. So if you see right here, it shows 2. In the formula bar, it'll still show me 1 plus 1. It'll show me what operation I'm doing to get this answer. So if you'll remember, we also explained the naming system for each cell in Excel in that first lesson, A1, A2, B2, and so on and so forth. So let's just get a simple row of numbers through here. And if you're wondering how I go down a row so quickly after I type in the number, I just press the down button or the down arrow every time after I've typed a number to quickly cycle through all the fields. But yeah, so if we have these numbers, we can actually reference those cells in our equation. So what I mean by that is if we have equals, and let's say we want to add up the cell A1 and A2. Most of you can probably do that in your head, 1 plus 2 equals 3. But if you're doing this with more complicated numbers, it might be useful to do this. So you could do equals A1, and as you can see, this cell is now highlighted, plus A2. So it highlights A1 and A2. Here you can see that we're doing equals A1 plus A2. You can see the answer is 3. The cool thing about referencing cells rather than just entering in the numbers manually is that now if I go back and I change cell A1 to equal 4, it automatically updates the formula. 4 plus 2 is 6. So if you want some sort of updating information based on some other values, it's very often useful for finances and for data. That's just a really, really good way to do it. You can do this with all sorts of operations. You can do A1 plus A2, you can do A1 minus A2. You can do A1 times A2. So for times, you would use the asterisk. 4 times 2 equals 8. For divided, you would use slash. A1 divided by A2, 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Just one thing to be really careful about when you're doing these sort of operations is you can't reference the cell itself. So for example, right now I'm on cell D6, right? So in my equation, I could not reference D6. If I did, for example, A1 plus D6, it'll give me an error. But there are one or more circular references. And a circular reference basically is where the formula references the answer. So if I said, like x equals x plus 1, for those of you who understand algebra a little better, that's impossible. It doesn't exist. The same way you can't have a formula like this where d6 equals a1 plus d6, because it's impossible to have that. So it'll just show you a 0 until you go back and actually fix your formula. Let's say that was a typo. I meant to type in D5. Perfectly allowable. And it'll just let you continue. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit with creating some basic formulas here on Microsoft Excel. Just one more. Actually, before we leave, there's another way to select cells. So let's say I'm doing equals, and I want to select this cell. I can just click on it. And there you go. And then if I want to add, I don't know, these 3 cells, then I could just select them, There you go. Now it will just add the whole thing. It will add A1 plus A4, A1 plus A5, and then A1 plus A6. The way that formula works is you put A1 plus A4, and then the colon in a formula means through. So cells A4 through A6. I could do this right here. Let's say I have equals. I want to add A2, but this time I want to add to the answers that I got last time. A2 plus, what is this? F7 through F9. And you'll see the same thing is going to happen here. It'll give me 3 results. A2 plus F7, A2 plus F8, A2 plus F9. So you can reference cells that already are formulas in your formula, and you can reference multiple cells. You'll just need to make sure that you have enough space to store all of the different answers. So I think that covers everything for this lesson. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.